Ladies and gentlemen, respected judges, respected guests. It's an absolute honor to be debating in the finals for Communication and Action Part 2, and my best wishes for the team is race to win. The debate today is about how Bangladesh should be engaging politically more with the East rather than with the West. As team government, as team affirmative representing GUE, I tell you we strongly stand for that. Why do we stand for that? The next 8 minutes, let me tell you how I'm going to construct the next 8 minutes. What I'm essentially do is I'm going to talk to you about the USA, firstly. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you about India, and then China, and then the greater East, and how our engagement on a political level, on an economic level, with all the countries involved, will essentially mean that Bangladesh has greater benefits to reap from the East rather than from the West. Let's speak up. Firstly, let's talk about USA. I want to talk about 3 things with regards to the USA. Firstly, our dependence on the USA. Secondly, how the USA, very famously sometimes does things to us that shouldn't be done because it's just in the interest of the USA. This is how USA works. And thirdly, how the US's economy is going down on a very rapid level as compared with the West. Sorry, the East, I beg your pardon. And as such, it's not our basic, it shouldn't be our destination. Mr. Speaker, first dependence. See, the very basic idea, the USA or the West on the whole, the European Union included, how exactly are we dependent on them? The very reason we're depending on them is because of firstly A, our garments industry, and B, the different loans we get from the different aid agencies. For example, the ones funded by these Western countries like World Bank, like IMF, etc. Right? One by one. Garments. See, we understand that a huge chunk, a massive chunk of our exports go to the European Union, go to the West, but if I anticipate the opposition coming and telling me that if I'm moving away from the West to the East, it would essentially mean me losing my business, see, I would not agree. Why? Because economics 101 tells me when there is demand, there is supply, right? As since when you have garments being produced in your country at a cheaper rate when compared to Vietnam, compared to India, compared to even China these days, give me one good reason why the European Union or the United States for that matter will bring away orders from Bangladesh, right? It's not like they're doing us a big favor, it's just that we need us and in a similar way they need our garment products too. Essentially that deals with garments. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, World Bank and IMF. Yes, we do rely on World Bank and IMF on a very big level, right? Because they give us loans for bridges, they give us a bit, for example, the World Bank gives a very big loan in the very recent past, which really does work out. But the idea being they give us big loans, right? But then again, Mr. Speaker, if you believe this is the dependence, let me talk to you about how US is not always in our interest, right? For example, let me begin with the structural adjustment policy. For ones who are not really habituated with the idea of structural adjustment policy, what exactly does this mean? Essentially means that when you have these countries like the US coming into third world countries like Bangladesh, what do? They give you loans, they give you aid, but then there are strings attached, right? They tell you, you need to hire my experts, you need to hire my technicians, you need to use my materials, you need to give me back interest in dollar at a higher rate than the ones you're taking. As such, because of structural adjustment policy, whatever is earned because of infrastructure or other investment in the country essentially flies back to the same country it comes from. And as such, because of structural adjustment policy, we have Bangladesh being on the losing end and these Western countries being on the receiving end of these things, even though we are the ones taking loan, but essentially we're just using the loan in a way for their purposes. So Mr. Speaker, that deals with structural adjustment policy. Let me talk about the recent agreement of TIFCA, right? We all know the free trade agreement TIFCA. What exactly happened there? Mr. Speaker, we know US has free trade agreements with many other countries, for example, with Argentina, with South Korea. But if we draw conclusions from the recent past, what exactly is happening in these countries? We see US, for their own interests, they apply principles, economic principles, and restrictions. For example, for in Bangladesh's case, they use a restriction of 5% agricultural subsidy, right? Usually it used to be a 25% subsidy. For a Bangladesh country, for an agricultural-based country like Bangladesh, if the US wants a 5% agricultural subsidy, imagine the farmers living with a small, tiny, minute amount of subsidy. How many farmers will be committing suicide? How many farmers will be dying day in, day out? Because guess what? The government is now held in agreement, they're legally liable to the US to not give more than 5%. We believe things like these. And then again, if you remember rightly, back during Ershad's time, if you remember or not, the US gave us a big loan. But then again, after US gave us this loan, since the projects were not finished, and because of we were held liable by the agreement, we had to give back the entire amount, plus the interest, Mr. Speaker. It essentially goes to show how US essentially not always works interest. And most importantly, the US has a vested interest in Asia. The whole pivot to Asia foreign policy of Obama is centered around countering the dominance of China, right? So what essentially US is doing is, because it wants to counter China and its influence, is helping, it's essentially making newer friends. But we know how US is not good at making newer friends, right? We saw how Japan today, when it meets the US, isn't really getting a lot of help from the US, because you see Japan and China clashing on a regular basis in the South China Sea. But what exactly is Japan doing? It's just not really helping. So that's US. India, let's talk about India. So how exactly can we earn from India as a major player in the East? Mr. Speaker, the East. Let's first talk about the imports. Whatever major imports that we have from the East, Mr. Speaker, is essentially from India and China, right? Even imports from the garments industry, from cotton, from fabrics, from food items, lentils, even something as silly as textbooks, right? All of these things come from India. The basic raw materials for fertilizers, the basic raw materials for pharmaceutical companies, the ones we have Square, GXK even, all of these things essentially come from India, right? So Mr. Speaker, also the IT development sector in Bangladesh has been increasing a lot. The same has happened in India too. We know because of rapid development in the IT sector in India, what exactly has happened? It has evolved so rapidly that the wages have increased at a very rapid level. As such, it has reached such a level where it needs to outsource its IT work to in a similar fashion that the US does today. Where exactly Bangladesh come into play? Bangladesh can be a major player because Bangladesh is developing in the IT sector too and can rope in billions and billions dollars worth of an industry from India. That's number 2, Mr. Speaker. Number 3, let's talk about how the river issues. I understand we'll talk about the river issues and how India is known for screwing. How India. Thank you so much, sir. How India is known for screwing us over because of rivers, right? We tell you that there is a positive change today. We saw how our speaker was invited to Modi's inaugural ceremony. We saw how the Foreign Minister of India has come today. And moreover, we have bargaining chips of our own. We have the transit policy. We have things about how, we do not let foster anti-India elements in our group, in our land. So we have bargaining chips of our own too. And if we make them work properly, only if we have a right leadership that does not try over one felony, but make sure that we don't have any more felonies in the future, guess what? Our future with India will only increase. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, let's talk about China. Does China really have vested interest with us? I tell you no. What does China want? China wants greater connectivity. And as such, China wants to invest for a deep sea port in Sonadia, right? And China is doing it on its own terms, its own money, its own goddamn infrastructure. Why not let China do that? Why not have a greater connectivity and a greater relationship with China? Mr. Speaker, we saw China recently invested 3,000 crore PDT for Teletalk in Bangladesh. We saw how China and other Asian banks like JICA, other Asian banks like ADB can come and offset the effects that are given by WBank, World Bank, and IMF and other banks, right? We've seen how China very recently, a patented rice item that China has given to nobody. During Sheikh Hasina's recent visit to China, we saw how agricultural treaties were made. We saw how very rare rice breed patents were given away to Bangladesh only so that we could evolve agriculturally, Mr. Speaker. Because of all of those reasons I've given you, Mr. Speaker, we see how China, even our labor force, we see how our labor force, our remittance, billions and billions of dollars worth of remittance goes to Malaysia, Singapore, the Middle East, Thailand, for all of those reasons, Mr. Speaker, for India, for China, for the extensive overall greater role of East in the future of Bangladesh. We believe that is where the future lies, and we're very proud to propose. Thank you very much.